All right, we're back. So, welcome to my channel. My name is Nick. Here today, I'm going to talk about one of the bigger stories online, really, right now, uh, regarding a pretty big YouTuber named Colleen Ballinger, who is also the person who plays the character of Miranda Sings. And in today's video, I'm actually going to respond or elaborate on a topic that a fellow YouTuber, a commentator named Angelika, and Angelika might be her name, I forget how to pronounce her name. Oles, I think her last name is pronounced. I'll link her video in the description, but she does a really good job of explaining what exactly is happening with Colleen's situation regarding some past tweets and videos, and also a situation that happened a few years ago between her and a fan who was underage. Now, in this video, I'm not going to rehash that whole situation. I'm going to actually continue on with something that Angelika left off her video with, which is the argument around holding public figures and everyone accountable to the same standard, or holding everyone to the same standard. And also, I wanted to add on to that later after talking about that first part, how branding yourself or how your views online or in general can be used against you later on if you haven't been consistent with following those set of rules or those guidelines that you've given to yourself and put out into the public. So I'm going to address those two things in this video today. So if you want to watch Angelika's video first, head there and then come back. But I just wanted to kind of continue on this conversation that she really implored her audience to do as well. So let's get started. So first, I wanted to talk about the holding people to the same standard across the board. One example that she mentions in her video is how, if you don't know YouTube people, Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star, two of the biggest people on the platform, they both, well, Shane Dawson has been on YouTube for a long time, probably since the beginning, before it was even owned maybe by Google. And Jeffree Star has been a social media personality for a long time. I remember I grew up in Orange County, California, and I had a Twitter account probably before I should have. And he was one of the top people in the area on Twitter, but I know he actually gained a lot of his following originally from MySpace. And now he's on YouTube and he's crushing the game, and him and Shane teamed up, right? They both have a history of what some would consider racist or problematic tweets and videos and comments, but people have seemed to forgiven them, and they're even more popular than ever right now. So what Angelika, I should have looked up how to say her name before this, said, was meant, just briefly touched on that, has a bigger conversation, is they both have been canceled or been attempted to cancel, and they've actually come back stronger than before. And so, of course, this Colleen situation is pretty fresh. It's only a few days old, and so she hasn't really addressed it yet. But it did open a broader conversation of what could happen from here on out. Whereas some people are quote-unquote canceled for doing something that someone else did that that person is not canceled for. So the question is, do we hold everyone accountable for doing the same thing when every other factor around that person may not be the same as the other person? For instance, one factor I think about is a pattern. So if someone had a one-off situation that was controversial, and they address it, they apologize and say, hey, I learned my lesson, this was really bad judgment, I didn't mean it like this, I understand this is offensive for this way, and it won't happen again. To me, that's like, okay, that's forgivable. But if you have been getting away with things for a while, no one's really addressed it, or people kind of swept it under the rug, and then there's an instance that is, or an event that's a little more jarring, like for instance Colleen's situation where she was interacting with an underage fan, and that fan is now coming out and sharing their story. What it does is it triggers people to kind of look back on your entire history of your career or your public spotlight, whatever you have available for people to explore, and they start seeing things in a different light. They start seeing things more critically, being like, hey, okay, so 10 years ago you did this, which at the time it might not have been controversial or anything, But now in today's society, where people are a little more sensitive, more aware of things, there's new terms, new social etiquette. There's new understandings between people about what's right and what's wrong that weren't there about 10 years ago. So I think it's interesting to see how many people, no matter where they come from, no matter what industry they're in, are being looked at with a microscope or through a microscope of their entire career. And I think at this point, if you weren't smart enough to go through your entire either tweet history, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever social media you use, Snapchat I guess wouldn't be a problem because they disappear, but any of those things, and before anything comes up, or look at it in the lens of today, is what I'm saying is, in May of 2020, I'm going to go back through everything that I've posted, said, or anything, even if I stand behind it 100%. Is this going to be a problem for me if it's there on my feed still, and people go back and look at it? And I think you would be smart, even though I'm not a fan of like tweeting and deleting, to delete those things, so that the worst case scenario is that someone has a screenshot of it and you have to address it if it comes out. But I don't think taking the risk of just letting things fly at this point is worth it for these people, for the amount of headache that it's causing people, and could potentially have on effects on your family and your future. So that was one thing I wanted to talk about, and also, like, should we really be punishing people now for something they said 10 years ago that was okay and acceptable back then? I don't know, because it's the same thing as certain language that today is unacceptable that wasn't acceptable back then, or that was acceptable back then, and vice versa. Maybe something said 10 years ago was controversial, but now it isn't. So I think a lot of the tables have turned. One thing I'm thinking of is, for whatever reason, I got a recommendation in my YouTube feed of the VMAs performance from 2003 where Madonna kissed Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. That was considered like shocking and front of the head or top headline of the next day, whereas now a woman kissing another woman on TV, it's not a big deal anymore. If anything, it's being more embraced nowadays. Whereas if someone back then said the word like GAY, I don't want to say it because I'm not using it in a bad context, or saying the FAG word back then, maybe it wasn't as controversial back then. But if you look back on that footage now, you would be like, ooh, someone saying the F word or that F word now, it's kind of cringy, because I don't think people use it as slang anymore, even though it did back then. So that's kind of the example I was thinking of, is one thing back then was okay, it's not okay now, and then something that is okay now wasn't really okay back then. So I think I've beat around the bush enough for that one. Second thing I wanted to talk about, what was the second thing I want to talk about? I don't know why I keep forgetting my train of thought. I start talking and more things pop into my head. So the first thing I want to talk about was even distribution of things. And then the second thing was, let me pause for a second. Okay, I remembered. I don't know why I lost my train of thought. I just got off work, so probably just my brain's a little fried. The second thing I want to talk about regarding Colleen's situation was having a brand or a certain viewpoint, or a certain, I don't want to say agenda, but I'll just say it because I can't not address it, is people with a certain political viewpoint, particularly maybe left-leaning people who, and not all of these people are like this, but people who position themselves as kind of a morally on a moral high ground, meaning like I'm accepting of everybody, I love everybody, I'm pro civil rights, I want everyone to have equal rights, I want anti-hate speech, anti-bullying, LGBT rights, all those things, right? When you position yourself as someone who loves everyone, who says the right things, is politically correct in what they say, treats everyone with kindness, all those things that we have come to know as really popular and really widespread. widespread adoption of those things. When you put yourself in the position of being, I'll just, for argument's sake, as a perfect person in the public eye, when things come out that are not that, I think, to me, it's more controversial that way. Whereas if you are someone who doesn't try to position yourself as like a perfect person, or like this morally superior person in the public eye, because you feel like it's your responsibility to be that, even if you're not a perfect person, it's more damaging to you because I feel like nowadays it's a lot, I don't want to say easier, but a lot more accepting and a lot more attractive for people to have a brand that is family friendly and pro kindness, pro LGBT, pro civil rights, pro anti-bullying, all those things like that look really pretty on the outside, but when you realize the person promoting these things maybe aren't really fulfilling their end of the bargain or their end of the deal, it actually has the opposite effect, and these movements actually get tainted in a way because they're being represented by people that actually are the opposite of that. And so I think this is kind of what's happening with Colleen, is she is very pro all those things, right? Very, for lack of a better term, liberal as far as being in theater arts, being in pro LGBT, being pro childhood cancer. She does a lot of work with child cancer charity. I think she's pretty PC as far as what she says and does. And so now that things are coming out from her past that aren't really matching up with that, I think that's going to be the hardest thing for her to address and for people to kind of grasp. So that's something that I'm actually more aware of now that I'm doing more public videos and more social media type stuff. Is I'm just trying to be fair, right? I'm trying to be me. I'm trying to be just kind of if you do you, I'll do me kind of thing. I'm not this shoving things down your throat like be kind to every single person, blah blah blah, or don't do hate speech or bullying or whatever. Do you, and then people can react the way they want to react, right? I'm not here to kind of be a preachy type person. I'm just here to tell you my view on things, right? And so 10 years from now, what I'm saying now, if for whatever reason what I'm saying right now completely goes out of style and it's completely controversial 10 years from now, because I'm setting up my brand or my public facing image as not this like all-knowing, morally perfect person, if for whatever reason what I'm saying now I don't delete it and it becomes really controversial, I'll have set myself up in a position where I can address it and it won't be like shocking for people to come back and discover this, because I've set myself up to be just me. That's who I am. I'm actually me. And so I don't know if that made sense, but I think you get what I'm saying. Is the whole idea of branding yourself for a certain ideology that's like popular or trendy or whatever is a recipe for disaster, is what I'm trying to say. Meaning something that's trendy right now that you've based your entire public image on may not be trendy in 10 years. So just be you, because you will always be trendy. That's my biggest, I should put that on my list for t-shirt ideas, is you will always be trendy. Right? Being you will never go out of style, because you will evolve. Your trends of yourself will evolve, stylistically, image-wise, mentally, physically, career-wise, socioeconomically, all those things will grow as you get older. So I think that's a good way to kind of end this video, is just be you. You will always be trendy, and that'll kind of save you a lot of hassle down the road if you're not being yourself now, or if you're not being yourself later. So thank you so much for taking the time to get this far. I hope you took away a different perspective of this if you're discovering this as you're learning about this situation. The situation is unfolding as we speak, probably. I'm sure she's talking to her PR people or her agent or people around her on how to address this. So I'm sure we will see some comment or some video of hers. But until then, let me know what you think. Did you watch Angelika's video, and did you come here? And let me know kind of if you agree with me or if you have a different take on it in the comment section. And make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for an update on this as it becomes available. If it becomes available, who knows? Maybe she won't even address this at all. I mean, that's what some people do, I guess. They kind of ride the storm out and then hopefully hope it goes away. But I think in today's day and age, that's not really possible. So especially when everyone's kind of stuck at home, they have more time to do good things and then more time to do bad, like gossipy type things. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a great day so far, and I will talk to you very soon.